Joseph too. Was Joseph a man of the Old Testament? 4mn. Was Joseph an Old Testament man? Well, when you look a little bit at what is described in his life, you realize that during the big ordeal, when his young wife he had agreed to marry and probably not to touch, because that she wanted to be religious, comes back pregnant, it is about the Virgin Mary, and well, her first reflex is to refer to the law, to see what it allows, the law of Moses, and it allows two things: a public repudiation with denunciation and then stoning, or a secret repudiation which causes the Virgin Mary to exile herself, and things stop there. This clearly shows that Joseph is a man of the Old Testament. The Old Testament, it must be realized that almost 2,000 years of history told, and therefore the slow maturation of a people from barbarism, it is the time of Moses, with extremely violent, harsh commands, including the stoning of women with conditions that are sometimes surprising as the laws are primitive. No current human justice would do that. For example, if a woman is pregnant like the Virgin Mary, and therefore if it is not because of her husband, she is not married, she is denounced, and she says to defend herself, she says, I have been raped, and if she says to defend herself, I was raped in the city at such a place, by such person. Well, we'll stone her, says the law of Moses, because she could have screamed. Whereas if she says with intelligence that she was raped in the country while working in the field, on such a date, then we will not stone her because she may have shouted and we may not have heard her. It is well known that this commandment is iniquitous and that Moses could have guessed it, since one of his ancestors, Dinah, one of his ancestors, daughter of Jacob, was raped in the city and no one heard his cries. So, the law of Moses starts from there, and a woman who has committed the sin of immorality, which is adultery, under the faith of several witnesses, perhaps, and well, she is stoned. We do not take into account the motive. Is it by vice? Is it because of weakness? Or was it deceived and made drunk by a man? Could it be a rape? We do not take that into account. So it shows that we start from the Old Testament with a barbarous law, to come after, with for example the prophet Malachi, to a law, great justice and great human justice. It is the prophet Malachi who says, I hate repudiation. And the woman of your youth does not betray her. The one to whom you did test oaths. Otherwise do not complain that when you come to the temple you are not exalted by God. It has nothing to do. In fact, 2,000 years of hardship, suffering and reflection took place, and God refined his people to prepare him for the coming of the Messiah. Well, Joseph, he is confronted with these two possibilities and he refers to them. So a public repudiation or something in secret, more discreet, that will not reach the life of the Virgin Mary. He is therefore quite a just man, just according to the Old Testament, a human rightness, a profound truthfulness that is full of mercy, that does not seek to crush the other and to avenge himself. Nevertheless, he is a man of the Old Testament.